County lake lovers. On the third Thursday of every month, we gather virtually over Zoom. Sometimes we're in person, but today we're virtual. And our goal is to share success stories, to ripple out what's working and what's not working so that other lake lovers can learn. We're a collaborative platform. So tonight, we're really thrilled to have Gerry Munley talking about a success story with the Way with Geese. I understand he might be talking about a few other species. And so I'm just going to give Gerry the floor to share his presentation tonight, and hopefully we'll have time to take some questions at the end. Thank you, Gerry. And you're on mute. Excellent. Let's just give you a chance to hop off mute.
Looking for my...
We can hear you now.
All right, I'm actually just trying to find my, I just had it, my
you go ahead and
PowerPoint. Mary, do you have the PowerPoint to pull up? Or
I can bring it up if you're, yeah.
And because I just went to get it and it's lost
not
it.
Okay, just a sec. I have, oops. So it'll take me just a second. Bill, maybe, oops.
Want me to say a few words, Mary, while you're pulling that up?
That'd be super.
Let me try one more time here.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Gerry.
Okay, got it.
Beautiful.
Move this up.
Perfect.
All right. Marty and I talked ahead of time, and Marty is going to start off with the topic of deterrence for geese, and I'm going to go with beaver or beavers, whatever it is. So, Marty, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you, Gerry. And just a little bit, just a quick background. We moved to Loch Lomond just in September of 2022. So we are relative or just absolute newbies compared to a lot of you other fine folks that have been on the lakes for much longer. Our house is on the lake, and frankly, when we moved in, it was somewhat infested with geese. There were probably 40 to 50 geese that were in the fall, late summer, fall, were all over the lake. Our property sits on a hill. They love coming over to our grass, plus all of our neighbors and everything else. It's something which I know a lot of lake lovers have experienced over time, and that's why we're talking about the geese deterrents at this point. Well, we'll be focusing a lot on these geese lights at the initial part. Just want to remind folks, people that are listening in, that this is a group effort. It's a multi-step effort. It takes a lot of education, communication, and cooperation by folks on the lake, as well as other parts of the community. But we've had some really good success in just the last 2 years, and we hope that this year will be obviously better, and it may be incredibly good based on the progress we're seeing. So next slide, please, Gerry. The geese lights that we'll be talking about, they're provided by or sold by a company called Away with Geese. Pretty simple, straightforward name. And after doing some research, we liked what they were selling and talking about, and decided to give them a shot. Actually, I purchased one of the geese lights just on my own to put on our property. But these have to work in coordination with other lights in order to cover the area of a lake in order to be effective. If geese can just move out of range, then it hasn't worked. Simple concept. The lights sit on the water. They are at the Geese eyeball level. It's a low intensity light, blinking every 2 seconds. It is a solar powered, and the concept again is somewhat simple, but geese really do like, that they're lazy. They like to be able to eat, sleep, poop, and just hang out at the same place all day long. They would rather walk than fly. And if they can get away with it, they would just stay in one spot for as long as possible. So next slide, please, Gerry. So how this works is that the solar power generates the energy for the lights. So from dusk to dawn, it gives off frankly, a gentle blinking that is low intensity, but it is annoying to the geese with their sensitive eyes. And Gerry's going to show a video that's an actual video of one of our lights at work. It's they're not super bright, and they're not like the warning hazard lights you would see on a roadside. They are low intensity. You may move next slide, Gerry.
No, I'm trying. I know. I'm trying to get to the next one. All right. I need. Sorry, I'm trying to get out of that. All right, let me do that again.
While you're doing that, when we first engaged with the company Away with Geese, again, I think we were as skeptical as the next group as to would they work. They have a pretty remarkable money back guarantee. They just require you that you use them for a certain period of time, and you also coordinate with them on the placement of the lights within your on your lake. This is a picture, I think, from one of our beaches. You can barely see the light sitting out there, but because of our horseshoe shaped lake, we've needed to, well, let me just back up for a second. This is an aerial view of our lake. The Away with Geese, company, pretty simple technology. They do a Google Earth, image of your property, of your lake. Gave us the recommendations as to how many lights were needed and where they'll be placed. Frankly, I was a little surprised that they only suggested 10. I mean, if they had said we needed 15, we probably would have purchased 15. But they said we needed 10, and you want to get the light, so that it hits, hiding places. It has a 100-yard radius, 360 degrees, and frankly, it's been, it was immediately effective in the first weeks or months, and it continued to be effective into the following year, and continue to be effective presently, which we can talk about in a minute. So that's again, it's an aerial view of our lake. Where Loch Lomond is 75 acres, and that's our placement. The next slide, please, Gerry. Yeah, we're thinking of possibly adding maybe 2-3 more lights. But frankly, it's been working really well. There are a couple of pockets that may be a hiding place for the geese, but we've been able to coordinate not only with the lighting, but with some other geese deterrents, which we'll talk about in a second, like fencing and natural barriers. I think in 1 or 2 situations, a homeowner asked us to move the floating geese buoy, a few feet, few yards, either away from their sight line or away from maybe where their boat might be traversing. Easy to do, and we're able to move it very, very simply. As I mentioned, I have one sitting right on the point of our property, and I know at least one other resident has a light as well. It just adds extra deterrence, but most of our homes are up on a hill, or at least a little bit elevated from the waterfront, and from unless we're looking out the window looking for the light, you're just not going to see it and not be impacted by it. But next slide, please. In addition to the the lights, another very important piece has been communicating with homeowners and educating them with respect to small metal or small fencing along their shoreline. The geese, particularly after they have nested, and or when they're looking for a nest, what they want to do is be able to walk up and down from the water to the shore. When they're not nesting, they of course fly anywhere they want, but unless they have a place where they can easily walk from the water to the land, they don't seem to be as interested. They will look for some other place where they can do that. We've had a lot of success with having lakefront homeowners install pretty small, say small, like 18 inches, pretty, I guess, innocuous, for lack of a better word, fencing right at the shoreline. And geese see it and realize they can't walk up, and they will move on and hopefully move to another body of water. The pictures here, the large metal gate, that is a movable, easily movable, lightweight, fence gate, which is placed at our boat launch area. So when people are in our community beach, people are launching their kayaks or their other boats, they can easily move the fence and then put it back in place. It's important for that to be in place, like in the evenings, overnight, so that the geese don't find it an attractive place to traverse from the water up into the grassy areas where they want to eat and sleep and hang out. All right, next slide, please. We've been very successful in both our two some community beaches, planting some natural buffers. As you see, that's an excellent shot of some shoreline plantings. Right adjacent to this planting area is our beach. The beach, of course, is all sandy and it's easy to get in and out of the lake, but we have fencing there as well. And some number of homeowners where they have the ability to do so, they have planted some very similar native buffers. They also operate as a wetland buffer for our runoff and erosion and things of that nature. But geese, when they can't safely see up what's behind those plantings, don't want to hang out there or try to move their families there. And it has been again quite effective in both our north and south beaches and in a number of homeowners lakefront properties. Next slide, please. And again, this is another piece of a coordinated, this communication. These little handheld green lasers, get them from Amazon. They're about $30. They work really well at night and at dusk or a cloudy day. But if geese are looking for a place to hang out, or if they're already on your property or neighbor's property, their eyes are very sensitive. They don't like the laser, and they will move on. It's just kind of like a slight harassing mechanism for them to be encouraged to find some place where they can hang out and not be bothered by homeowners with lasers. This green or this floating laser, I haven't seen any of those in use, but I think for a small pond, they could be quite effective. But they are quite expensive. I watched a video of how they operate, and the light emanates, in like a 360-degree, circle, and it just will, work well in a small area. But we haven't really used that on our lake. But the green lasers are great to just keep the geese moving and more interested in going someplace where they have a lot more peace and quiet. Next slide there. I think a lot of folks who, of course, have been on the lake and involved with lake lovers, they're familiar with Canadian geese. But some of their important fun facts are, I mean, they can live from their lifespan is 10 to 24 years. They're big suckers, 12 to 14 pounds, big wingspans. This is the big problem. Their pooping ability, it's constant, 2 to 4 pounds a day, compared to a dog or another animal, which is much less. And there's nobody there to pick up after them as well. They used to migrate. They used to be called a migrating Canadian geese, so they don't migrate. And if they can find a comfortable place to hang out, they will do so. And again, most importantly, I think the bottom portion is that the goose poop is a significant source of phosphorus. Increases the algae blooms, water quality, and can carry E. coli and salmonella. They can pollute a beach, and just the runoff onto the lake can result in, after heavy rain, can result in beach closures, lake closures, and just a contaminated water site for homeowners and their friends. We've had, again, just after 2 years, and again, it's not just the lights, but it's a coordination between the lights, the fences, just more awareness. Remarkably, in 2024, we had no beach closings due to E. coli. Each of the previous 2 years, we had 4 or more closings. Just the noticeable, of course, cleanliness of our beaches, and our 2 community beaches and parks. The cleanliness level was greatly enhanced. The noticeable reduction in geese population. I know it's still early in spring, even though today, I believe, or yesterday was the very first day of official spring. We have presently probably 2, geese couples that appear to be looking for nesting sites on our entire lake. Now that could change, tomorrow. It could change next week. We don't think so. But as compared to large populations of dozens of geese just hanging out on our properties, we have 2 that are looking for nesting sites, and people are constantly on the alert to discourage them from making a nest on their properties. So again, we increased the number of fencing across our community has greatly increased, and it's probably up at a level of I would kind of guess close to 60%, maybe 70% of our homeowners have just some small type of fencing to help keep the geese from easily commuting from the water to their lawns. Next slide, please, Gerry.
All right, so I'm on beavers, and I am not an expert on beavers, but these photos were actually taken from Community Park, and Community Park has a pond that actually feeds. It's the primary uh, inlet into Loch Lomond, and in the past few years, actually, it's been more than just a few years. I'm going to say over 10 years, counting St. Mary's. When I used to walk around there, you would see evidence of beavers having chewed on trees. But in Loch Lomond, just in 1 week in 2002, it was in the fall, it was at least one, and I never did hear how many they actually captured. It was one or two beavers had girdled 5 trees, all within it was really a matter of days. I'm going to say like 3 days. They did so much damage, and the lake. No, I'm sorry, not the lake, but the park district had a licensed animal removal service trap the beavers, and this was at about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. I saw them there, and by 8 in the morning, the traps were gone, the beavers were gone. But all of those trees had to be taken down because they were going to be a danger of falling over. So beavers really hate the sound of running water. I didn't know that, but it's when they hear water running, that's when they think they have to build a dam. So it must be some instinct that they it really drives them nuts. So they work day and night to try to stop the leak, and I'm not really sure what they were going to do at Community Pond because I think they were cutting trees in the wrong spot. I'm not sure if they were going to bring it over to where the drain was across the lake or what they were going to do. But they're very adaptable animals. They're persistent. They're very difficult to control. One of the main things that have been done both in Loch Lomond and I saw at St. Mary's Lake is to protect trees, to put fencing. And this is not the lighter weight garden fence that was in the Geese deterrent. This is like a really heavier, sturdy, galvanized, welded fencing, about 3 foot to 4 feet tall, and the openings can be about 2 to 4 inches. But it's still to prevent the beaver getting to the bark. So you don't want it right up against the tree. It's usually about 6 inches out from it. And so you still want the tree to grow, but you're just trying to prevent the beaver from getting through and gnawing it. Actually, I was hiking on Tuesday in Moraine Hills Park, and they had multiple trees in one area that the beavers had gotten to, and fencing as well. I had never heard of this sand and paint mixture. It doesn't have to be white. It could be the same color as your tree if you want. But it was a mixture of latex paint and something called mason sand, which is a lot more grittier, where you paint the tree up to about 4 feet high. And apparently the beavers don't like that gritty texture. I've never seen this done, and we have not done it around here, but I thought it was an interesting option, as well as garlic, peppermint oil, and predator urine. So I'm not sure if you've got access to predator urine, or peppermint oil might be a little bit easier. Again, we have not used any of those, but I thought that they were interesting suggestions when I looked them up. And in these are just some of the resources on geese and beaver deterrents. All right, I'm going to stop the share there. If anyone has any questions, Marty is much more knowledgeable. He's the one that did so much more work than I have. I just kind of put together some of the information. So if you've got questions, Marty is the man.
Yeah. Go ahead, Paul.
I have a question for Marty. Marty, could you talk a little bit about the details of how you created the buffer on your shoreline by your beach? Specifically, maybe some of the questions I have are, did you use an excavator to remove sand, or did you add soil? Did you use plugs or seed? Did you use a contractor or volunteers? do you have a plant list, or do the plants grow in sand? Lots of questions.
Um, the buffer strip is on it's not on the beach area. It is in the land, so it's soil that's right, I guess, adjacent to the beach. We did all volunteer labor. I mean, through the association, we may have purchased some black dirt. We have a few community members that are quite knowledgeable about gardening. I am not. They've published some really good things on our website, which is open to others as well. I know there's also resources through Lake County that lists native plantings. Yeah, so I can just, my best answer was knowing that I helped move some of the dirt. I helped dig some of the holes for the plantings, but people much more knowledgeable about the botanical things selected the plants, and I just provided manual labor, but it came in very nicely. It came in very, very nicely.
So just elaborating on that a little bit. So I'm hearing that you didn't use an excavator, and that I didn't hear if you used plugs or seeds.
Plugs. Yeah.
Plugs.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Seeds would take too long, I think, but yeah, we use some plugs.
Go ahead, Mary. Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions along the lines of that too. On the native plant list, did you say it was available on your webpage or that you used?
Can I interrupt on that one?
Sure.
I'm going to show you some resources in my next little slideshow, and it does have information on buffer strips as well as native plant lists.
Okay, and then I also was wondering, the cost on the lasers that you have in the water and how you paid for it.
Sure.
Funding on it.
The Geese lights are about $450 to about $500 each, which includes the the base, the buoy, which floats on the water. I must tell you this: they have a 2-year warranty. We've had from our 10 Geese lights. We keep them in year round. We don't take them on in the winter. So all sorts of things can happen to them, just wear and tear. We've had probably 5 or 6 which have stopped working. I sound like an advertisement for the company, which I'm not. But one quick phone call told them we needed replacement lights. They were shipped out to us within 2 days. Actually, just this past last week, I was out in my kayak with 3 replacement lights, and which was all part of the warranty, and no cost to us. Plop them in, and off we go.
If you take them out in the winter, you think you get longer life expectancy out of them?
I guess probably, but I guess. But we haven't noticed like any damage. I mean, this was a great winter for ice. People were ice skating and cross country skiing and fishing. We found no breakage or damage or things like that. But I guess if you shut them off for 5 months,
How far away are they from the shoreline?
Probably anywhere from about 50 yards maybe.
And do you have motorboats on your lake?
We have only electric powered trolling motors.
Okay.
10 horsepower. So
So
yeah, they're very noticeable, and at nighttime they're blinking. So we haven't found any that have been run over or crushed by a boat.
And then how about the funding of it?
It was our association paid for those.
Okay.
I paid for the one at my house, but
The only other point that I thought that I would make is, I know we've used the laser pointers. And a lot of people are concerned about that in terms of the hurting the geese, and the correct way to use those doesn't hurt the geese at all. You actually point it at the ground where you want the geese to not like make an imaginary line on the ground in front of the geese that you don't want them to cross, and they'll turn around and go the other way.
That's a good
So
point.
if you have residents that object on those grounds, we have a big geese problem, and part of our problem is we have someone feeding the geese. And that's, I mean, we've
Yep.
tried everything, and Lake County's come and talked to them like 2 or 3
Wow.
times, but to no avail. So that's why I thought the yard things might be good for their neighbors. And then maybe that will keep them, discourage the geese from coming in there. So you said you have people put them in their yards in addition to the water?
Yes, but I just was reviewing some of the publications from the company before we got on the call, and yeah, they're pretty clear. If people are feeding geese, it's not going to work. Because again, the lights don't hurt the geese; they just bother them. And if they're being fed, they probably don't mind being bothered, or they may fly away at night, but they'll be back. They'll be back in the daytime.
Right.
Because these don't work in the daytime. They'd rather be someplace where they can sleep, eat, and hang out all day long. And if they can, go to some other lake where they can just eat and sleep without being bothered at night, they'll go there.
Well, don't tell them about our lake.
Yeah, exactly.
That we're feeding them, that we have
Exactly.
people feeding them.
That is cute. Yeah. And I think what's really interesting is just the showcase that was provided here at Loch Lomond allowed for Cedar Lake to get their village approval to trial this technology. And so we'll have another example here very soon, which is going to be monitored by the lake monitoring pilot too. So excellent overview. And Paul, I want to get to Gerry's details on Loch Lomond, but go ahead. You're unmuted right now.
Sorry, I just had one more question. And so the effect of the lights on migratory birds, like off-target birds, off-target waterfowl, like migratory ducks especially.
That's a good question. And actually, one of our homeowners asked that when we were considering making the acquisition for our lakes. I called the Away with Geese, and what they had said that it doesn't have an effect on them. Their eyes are not sensitive like geese. So those birds, those waterfowl, to the extent that they, sleep on the water while they're passing through, the lights don't bother them.
And I heard the same thing this morning from the people at Away with Geese, who also said geese sleep with one eye open or something.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Very interesting. So
one caution about green lasers. So when you go from like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, the energy of that light gets stronger. So a green laser is stronger and potentially more dangerous. So don't aim it at people if you can. So.
Yep.
Nor
Very
at
important.
the geese, just in front on the ground.
Yeah. And Allie, I see you joined from Hinsdale, I believe, out west. Were there any questions that you had, or south? Delighted to have you on the call. And
No questions. We actually have a company that we hire to chase the geese. They bring their dog with them and they chase them away. So, but this sounds interesting. Might be worth a try.
yeah, it was so good to see you at Ilma. Yeah, it should be interesting.
How big is your lake?
10 acres.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere in there. So way smaller than yours. And we have a lot of native shoreline that we've put in. So we don't have that much turf grass anymore.
Sure.
The geese liked it so much. So,
Yep. They love a nice lawn.
yes, they do.
Yeah,
So, but very
excellent.
interesting. I kind of like the green laser idea. So if I'm out walking, I can kind of do some distraction on my own. What I do is I just make noise. Either maybe sometimes I'll bang my keys against my phone, and that's enough to chase them away. So I make other sounds too, but they usually do. They usually do leave, but they always come back. So
Yeah, excellent. And Marty had a great experience with Utrizorb, so would be a relevant case study for future Lake County Lake Lover presentations. So thanks for joining us here, Marty.
yep, thank you.
Mhm. And I asked Gerry, because of what Loch Lomond has done over the last few years, sort of convened its homeowners association and gathered history through a few powerhouses, Marty and Gerry and Tom Casey on the HOA. You've really sort of upped your game and, established a consistent plan. If you could just walk through the resources that you have, Gerry, which I think you organized so well too. And I should let everyone know, Gerry is a former chair of the science department at New Trier, also an assistant principal, and just loves science, has done such a super job with our tech team training. And so thank you, Gerry, for lending these resources to everyone.
Great. So I think it was my teacher hat. When I was starting to do lake monitoring with a friend of mine, and we just had all these questions about the lake health and what can we do. So I think this took a lot of Googling and trying to get information from other people. So a lot of this is new. I was a chemistry teacher, not a biology teacher, so I did not know a lot about lake ecology. So what I did is I compiled about well, it's probably over 20 sheets of information right now. And I'm going to keep this QR code on each page. But if you're interested, it could bring you to the website easily. But I'll show you some of the actual topics here. So there's, in this case, you see the buffer zones for lakes and wetlands. Let me see if I can just go to this one. Not sure. There we go. So in this case, I learned a lot about buffer zones, and I thought people would be would like to know more. So the idea was to put in information that I found interesting, and would I like to convince people? Sure, I'd love to convince people that this is what they should do. I did not know an awful lot about the plants that were necessary, or exactly how well buffer zones worked. But when I found out that this was probably the most cost-effective thing you could do to reduce the nutrients going into the soil, it was a pretty interesting thing to put together. And this past 6 weeks, I was taking a course through Michigan State University on lake ecology. And again, they also emphasized that buffer zones are probably one of the best things you could do. So if you want to know more, this would be an appropriate one to go to. And why can't I just get out of this easily? Sorry, I think I'm learning how to, let me get out of this entirely. Sorry, I'm sure there's a better way to do that, and I just don't know. Does anyone know? I have not done this part of.
Sorry, I was muted. If you move to the tab at the top of your screen, Gerry, on the left is the PowerPoint. Yeah.
That. Got it. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
So you'll see the deterrents for geese and beavers. That's instead of a PowerPoint, it's just a 2 or 3 page thing. Tom Casey, who's the president of our association, he was asking me last fall about, lawn care ideas that were eco-friendly. What could we do to help it teach people? Homegrown national parks is just fascinating. This is a person, he's a professor out of the University of Delaware named Doug Ptolemy, and he has some just fascinating ideas of what you can do with your yard. if everybody did something with their yards, even something small, we could actually have an enormous effect. I also put together things like history of Loch Lomond in maps that I was able to get from actually from county web pages more than anything else, and then some local things. But it was just interesting to see, what was this place like in the 1800s? Well, it was probably about the same horseshoe shape. It just didn't have any water in it. It was probably just a marsh. Storm sewers, I actually contacted the village of Munley, and they sent me a map of all the storm sewers that were kind of in our area. And it was something in the order of like 95% of the storm sewers in our neighborhood all were feeding into Loch Lomond. And this is that community park right up here. And this is right where my cursor is. That's where the trees were that the beavers got to. And this is the main inlet into Loch Lomond. There are others. This is a library pond, and this is a bigger marshy area. Native plant lists. So we have actually two people in the lake who live in our community. One works at the Botanic Garden, and another, her business is actually working on plants and native plants. So they were very helpful to me to actually give me lists of things and the correct names, not just the common name, but actually the correct Latin name, because that's really what's important, to make sure you're getting the correct one. But grasses, shoreline plants that would be along the shore but not in the water. And then emergent wetland plants are the ones that are partially submerged, and aquatic plants that are entirely submerged, and then also trees in the area. So I thought it was very helpful. Again, my wife is much better at this than I am.
Yeah.
So, and we've actually put in around our front yard plantings and things like that, and definitely reduced the amount of regular grass that we have in our yards. The planting of next generation trees. This actually came out of a visit to some friends in Indiana, and they were told that their community was about 1 to 2 trees generations behind, that if people aren't planting more trees right now, we are really going to be in for it, because especially oak trees are one of the most important things you can have for the long-term health of your yards, because they are home to so many different kinds of caterpillars and wildlife. So I thought that was kind of an interesting section as well. Pollinators, rain gardens, water testing. This was a 25-year history of Loch Lomond. So I had just some general information. Oh, there's a Seiki disc. Just to give people like a summary of data from the past 25 years. And then what's the muck? People always wonder what the muck is in the actual at the bottom of the lake. So that was an adventure for me as well. And then I also tried to include, although I have not updated last year's data in here, lake reports that we received from the county. Here's our lake management plan. This is another watershed management plan that we received from a company. And then here's the testing data for the past like 24, 25 years that we have. So I thought that was of interest to people, both as the data or as graphs. This was our early Pro Quattro, which is similar to the Pro DSS project that we're working on, but this is one that's not on steroids. And then Seiki disc information. So trying to give things that were manageable for people to, if they were interested. To be
Yeah,
honest,
and has it boosted engagement? Just curious with your HOA. I know that's something also Mary Lomas has been doing at Loon Lake.
I don't know. I think it has. I think in terms of our lake committee, I think maybe I'm the one that keeps bringing it up. So I think that engagement's increased. But I don't know what kind of traffic has been going to that part of the website. But I also know that now the information is there. We could also email things out. We could send that information. I'd love to see it on a more timely, like when people would normally fertilize their lawn. Okay, now's the time to send something out. So it's available now more than anything else.
Well, and I love the fact that we have all these experts in working across lakes. If we can just share resources like this and people know they exist, then someone else isn't recreating the
Right.
excellent work that you're doing. So Gerry, thank you. And as far as people linking to it, like, can we post it on our site? What's your preference for people using or referring to your work?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the Loch Lomond has some issue with that, but I think if you were to put a link in, what the heck? I mean, most of the information is all public information that I
Curate.
gleaned from other places. So
They say nothing new under the sun. Did anyone have any other questions or comments? Bill Cody's joined us from Northern. Well, he's here now, but he works with a big bass, Great Bass Lake up in Wisconsin. Do these best practices, are they relevant up there?
Absolutely. They have, I saw this listing that Gerry had made on our page, and I think that is on our Lake Lovers page. And I'll be probably showing this information to our lake groups up in northern Wisconsin, especially the shoreline plantings, because that's a big issue for our lakes up north. With, green grass is better philosophy up that way. So, and there's a push for homeowners up there to naturalize their shorelines. So it's very good. Gerry, thank you very much. That was very
Yeah.
interesting.
thank you.
Yeah, it was excellent. And Marty too. Excellent overview. I hope you get commissions. I think that's going to be something that's going to take off because very few things seem to have that little effort versus the border collie dogs that are hired. They need to be fed and they probably cost more than $450 a year. But I put in go ahead.
It depends how many lights you need but yeah, I'm gonna look into it. But I love how all the information was organized, what Gerry has on the website. I think those are a lot of great ideas. So we can definitely use that.
Mhm.
Thank you. Yeah, and the lights are a cool idea. So
They are. And I know Mary can't share her complete story, but maybe you could just tell, I know the folks at Loch Lomond had interest in understanding how to engage more homeowners. And you did have this marketing program that went alongside your Procellacor treatment. And if you could just talk briefly about how the
Sure.
homeowners responded and what you would recommend others do.
I think the hardest thing to do, whenever you have an issue is, not to look at it from your own perspective. And you have to have some reason that they're interested. I mean, we're all trying to get people engaged, but the bottom line is you really can't get people engaged if you don't have an issue that they care about. And, instead of trying to educate people originally, what we tried to do was come to a consensus on, what the hot topic was, why people were upset. And we had a situation where we had a large portion of our lake covered with Eurasian water milfoil, which goes vertically in a column and then spreads horizontally across the top of the lake. And with a lot of the dry weather that we've had it was exasperated to the point where boats couldn't get through, people were afraid to swim, and fishermen were couldn't get caught, we were getting caught on it. So instead of coming at the problem from an ecological standpoint where this is not a healthy situation for our lake, we tried to meet the people where they were. And then the byproduct of that was this whole education program, which we were required to provide in order to get funding by our grant. So we used the educational grant for the purpose of educating, obviously, but we did it so that people would be able to we got people engaged because it was going to solve the weed problem, which all they really cared about was, could they swim in it? Could they get their boat out? Could they fish without a problem? And the end result was, we required participation from everybody in order to get the grant. And that was the hook. I mean, it's pretty easy to do when you have a hook like that, right? It's entirely different when, you know, we've been trying to get people to do the shoreline buffers, and it's very, very difficult. People want to have that grass and go right into the water. So we'll probably have to write for another grant in order to make any headway on that. So,
Well, your success and close engagement with Gerard Urbanozo and the Lake County Stormwater and Health Departments was really impressive. And I think there was something, I forgot what I was going to say, but it's nice to know that homeowners can get engaged in coupling up a treatment, the success with the treatment where it totally eradicated everything. But I heard they also offer a guarantee and they're going in to do a few more sprays. I think we saw Dave at Ilma. So that's requires baby steps and then sharing these success stories. But I just love learning from everyone. And Bill and Becky, I know you've organized the Lake County Lake Lovers effort, and we have resources in the community. Any closing thoughts or comments you care to share?
I just want to say thank you to everyone presented, all the questions, and this is what this is about. It's just sharing and collaborating and understanding what's working, what's not working, and why, and maybe finding new colleagues that you can reach out to, even if they're at a neighboring lake or even downstate. So thank you. We appreciate it. It takes energy to put this together, and we really appreciate your efforts to do so.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. It was very good. Very helpful on the geese for us.
Yeah, and Gerry or Marty, final comment or?
Nope, good luck.
Good luck. And Bill, you joined us here. You close us out.
Well, I just want to say that everything we do within Lake Lovers is a journey towards sustainability. And we just really have to keep our efforts going. It's a very strong community at this point. With all the content experts that we have, we will be making a difference over the next 10 years in our lakes. And hopefully, one of the things that I would love to see is we get younger people buying into Lake Lovers in our families. So it's been great job, gentlemen. I've really enjoyed it. You know, I lived on Butler Lake and I had those beavers over there. So of course we did send them back your way. So but they're a real nuisance. They cut down a whole part of the tree line outside of the bridge by Mary's and my house. So, but thank you again. Very excellent job.
Yes. So we'll see you in the community, guys. Have a great
Thank
night.
you for hosting
Good
us.
night. Thank
Marty
you.
and Ellie, thanks again.
Bye.
Great.
Okay.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Mhm.